Hi, my name is Charles Kelley, better known as Chuck, to the thousands of students that I've worked with over the past 30 years here in New York City. The video presentation you're about to view is Basic Fundamentals in Acrobatics and Tumbling for Beginner Students. Over the past few years, styles and techniques have changed greatly. We've found easier and faster ways to get students to accomplish acrobatic and tumbling movements faster, more beautiful, and more basically anatomically correct. Even the techniques that I teach have changed. If you were one of those students that studied with me previously some 10 or 15 years ago, you will see by viewing this video that my techniques and style has changed greatly. There are 4 basic fundamental things we should be made aware of in teaching both acrobatics and tumbling. Those things are acrobatics, tumbling, contortionism, and gymnastics. Each is a field in its own, yet all are related closely. Acrobatics is basically the use of the body in movements which use counterbalance. In other words, there's an equal amount of weight on both sides of whatever your center is. A back bend, front walkover, back walkover, these are acrobatic movements. They use counterbalance. Tumbling is the use of the body in movements which require over or off balance. That is, from the center position, your body must fall in one direction away from center. Forward rolls, cartwheels, front handsprings, back handsprings. These are tumbling movements. Contortionism is the over-exaggerated bending of the body either backwards or forward. And it's usually associated with a student who is very hyperextended. A back bend catching the ankles or hoop rolls forward, or double leg shouldering. These are movements that we call contortionism. Gymnastics is really the use of all 3 of the aforementioned subjects, but put together on a piece of apparatus, and floor exercise is just one portion of that. Over the years, we have changed the ways we teach. I teach faster, and I'm hoping that this video will help you to obtain that same thing. I have 2 demonstrators that I'm going to use in this video presentation. Miss Amy Flood, who's been my student for approximately the past 4 years, and Miss Maureen Mellon, who has been with me since she was a very young child. It's my hope that this video will be of some help to you in keeping the interest of your beginner students, because it's very difficult to get beginners to do fundamentals technically correct. You must do them over and over and over. So there are little things you can teach them that keep them occupied and involved. At the same time, we're working for the finalizing of a basic movement. With that in mind, let's go to work. Right. I use pliés to warm up hip sockets and knee joints. These are grand pliés. We use movements called tendu. Tendu is an action used to stretch and point the feet, also helping to stress students to do that action when they have their legs upside down and over their head and in the air. Tendus warm up the ankles and the insteps. We do battements in all directions, front, side, and back. The girls are going to do 4 to the front for you, 2 on each side. And we do battements in second position. I'll have the girls do 2 on each side, and then turn and do the other side. And we also do battements in the back direction. Facing the bar, we'll do 2 on each side. And I also use arching actions which stress pushing the pelvis forward. Most all arching actions take place first in the hips and eventually in the shoulder girdle. With the girls facing one to the back and one to the front, they'll show you the direction that the body travels. Usually we arch back in 4 counts and come up in 4 counts. I'll count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and up, 2, 3, 4. Another exercise that I use at the bar uses releve and plie. We usually arch back on the first count of 1. We releve on 2. We do a deep plie, 3, and as you come up, you roll the heels back into the floor. We also use movements such as push-ups, sit-ups, leg changement sitting on the floor to help build strength in both the abdominals and the upper extremities. Over the years, there has been a set of rules or regulations, I guess you could call them, that have pertained to acrobatics and tumbling, which has produced students that are not only capable of doing beautiful tricks, but are really anatomically correct. At this point, I would like to go over some of those rules, and I'm going to have the girls one at a time show you some of the actions. The first rule is we try to work for long lines as possible. The longer the body line, the better the trick looks. As I told you before, my techniques have changed, and where I used to teach short lines, I now do everything with long lines. Arms should be raised. If you do a preparation for a movement, there should be a tendu action, and any movement that moves forward should be done with a long stretch. So from the ends of the fingertips to the back foot becomes a straight line. As the body levers forward, say for a handstand, this leg would come up, and you hit a straight line. Good. The second thing is shoulders. We work a great deal with our shoulders. Shoulders should always be lifted. If you watch Amy, most people will raise their arms, but they will do in ballet down. And that's like fifth position. Fifth position is beautiful, but it's not functional. If you lift your shoulders, the back becomes elongated. All movement that takes place from shoulder girdles movement has to be with the shoulders lifted. That brings us into a third rule. The head remains neutral between your arms. If you bend backwards, most students bend and they drop the head back like that. That makes your neck bend. It's breaking the long line. If you bend, you should bend with your arms next to your ears and come up. Okay. Let's stop Maureen. Fingers are very important. When you work on the floor and do tricks like front walkovers and front limbers, acrobatic movements, the fingers roll off the floor. Now, if Maureen does the handstand, I'm going to have her do a walkover. I want you to watch her fingers roll off the floor. It's a pushing away action. It helps to bring the body weight from the shoulders into the hip girdle much quicker. If you do actions where you are upside down, a back walkover, I'm going to have Amy kick up to a back walkover and hold the split position. The legs must be straight. The toes have to be pointed. If you flex your feet or bend your knees, you only do that in an action that calls for something like maybe passe. But for the most part, all actions upside down, you must have straight legs and stretched feet. The abdominal muscles are very important. If you're going to do aerial work of any kind, the minute the student rotates upside down to get high aerials, you must pull in on the abdominal muscles to help lift the hips. I'm going to spot Maureen for an aerial cartwheel. And I want you to try to watch and see if you can see her abdominal muscles work. It's very hard to do this at this length, but we'll try. The aerial should be up and over. The hips ride up and down. They should not just go forward. And that's something that takes work from doing sit-ups on the floor, basically changements with your legs. Okay? Another basic hint or pointer. When using takeoff for aerial movements, the legs should work in what we call quarter plie. In other words, the knee is directly over the ball of the foot. We don't execute demi-plie. It puts the knee too far forward, which makes the body drop down and the head lower into the floor on takeoff actions. That, accompanied with tightening the abdominal muscles, helps to lift the student off the floor in aerial tricks such as aerial cartwheels, aerial walkovers, back and front somersaults. I'm going to spot Maureen for an aerial cartwheel. And I want you to try to see at this distance how her hips lift in the air. If you see the hips, they ride up and down. They don't ride straight across. That's lift from the abdominal muscles, and that comes by doing sit-ups on the floor, push-ups, movements that take tightening of your abdominal muscles. I found over the years by teaching students basically how to use their arms on the face of a clock, we have a faster way of explaining movements and getting them to do it easier. I'm going to have the girls come out, and I'm going to have one girl face forward and one girl face sideways. If you teach arm positions as the relationship to a clock, you'll find you can do things much quicker and faster. 12 o'clock, the arms are lifted, the shoulders are extended, and it would be as if Maureen was standing on the face of the clock and you are looking at her. Almost all acrobatic and tumbling movements begin in this position. 1 o'clock, the arms are brought slightly forward, and this is the line of angle that the body assumes when you take off and do running movements, such as running aerial cartwheel or running front handspring, a round off. 3 o'clock, the arms are extended from the shoulders. This is the position most diving tricks take off from. A diving movement is long and low forward. 6 o'clock, this is the position of attention, used a great deal in gymnastics. 9 o'clock, this is the position behind us. Diving tricks can also take place in this position. If you assume you are on the edge of a pool, you would plie, bend slightly forward, and you would throw your arms to 3 o'clock to dive forward. So you can do a diving movement both from 3 o'clock or from 9 o'clock. As we get into the instructional portion of the video, you'll see I use those arm positions, and I'll say 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and it is really very easy to get students to work that way. Now, the material that follows is basically set up a basic trick such as a forward roll followed by a variation. Cartwheels, the basic cartwheel, and then some variations. The variations are designed for beginner students. We're working with fundamental acrobatic and tumbling actions. To keep the student interested, you must teach something that they can go home and do. While they are working on the basic trick, polishing and finalizing it to get it perfect, which is not a good word to use, but to the best of their ability, we give them variations that they can execute, and it's things that they can do, take home, and perform for parents. Very difficult to keep students' interest today. So it's my hopes that what you're going to view next will help you. Let's begin. The basic movement for a rolling action is a tuck, forward, roll. I'm going to have Maureen work on this first. We start with the arms at 12 o'clock. We do a little plie and place the two hands on the floor. You duck the chin to the chest. You push from both feet, rolling onto the shoulders with the knees bent. You catch your ankles, and as you come up, the two arms elongate, so you finish in a standing position. If she turns around now, she'll do the trick in unison for you without my direction. Tuck, forward, roll. The second roll is a pike front roll. The difference between what Maureen did and what Amy will do has to do in relation to the takeoff position. The arms begin at 12 o'clock. There's a small plie. She bends forward to place the hands on the mat. As she pushes off, her two legs will straighten. She will duck her chin and roll up and finish with the arms at 12 o'clock. Pike, forward, roll. Straddle front roll. We begin with the legs separated in a slight straddle position in the arms at 12 o'clock. The takeoff can be with a slight plie and push to straight legs. We bend, tuck, and the finish can be either in a tuck position or in a straddle position. We'll have Maureen do it again and go from the straddle position to the tuck position. Straddle front roll. Good. The basic action of rolling backwards is a tuck backward roll. We start with the two arms lifted to 12 o'clock. The first action is to bend the arms and drop the hands to the top of the shoulders. That takes place as the student sits into plie. The chin drops to the head. You roll back from both hands, push, and you must make sure that the knees don't touch the floor, and the pushing action brings the student upright to finish. This is a back tuck roll. Good. A back pike roll. The difference is the takeoff position. The arms begin at 12 o'clock. The arms are going to swing from 12 all the way back to 9 o'clock. The body must now pike forward, and as you do that, the hands will break the fall as the seat hits the floor. The finish can be either in a tuck or a pike position or a straddle position. The arms begin up. We swing, the body drops to the pike, we push, and we stand. Let's turn around, we'll do that again. Now Maureen's finishing in a pike position. In other words, at no point does she bend her legs. Good. A simple variation that can be taught beginner students who are learning to do rolling movements. We do a movement called a fish roll and a movement called a fish flop. A fish roll is easy. We start in a sitting position. The legs are extended forward with the arms at 12 o'clock. You bend forward and touch the toes. As you roll back onto your shoulders, open both arms to second. Place both feet over one shoulder. You push, and you push up to a slight arch position. I'll have Amy do that for you without stopping. This is called a fish roll. It's touch, push, and over. You will notice the feet land on the floor before she slides backwards. Maureen's going to show you what we call a fish flop. Now basically this is a variation on a backward roll in a layout position. The arms start at 12 o'clock. You touch the toes. As you roll back, the arms open to second. The 2 feet come up. You turn your face and you must arch and then roll out onto the floor. Now the difference is there's an arch action and a back roll onto the rib cage and hips, where Amy's movement was put the feet on the floor and slide out. Fish roll is easier than fish flop. The movement that Maureen's doing looks like a fish flopping out of water. And we smile. Good. We have another basic movement that can be done for beginner students. This is called sometimes clown rolls, tub rolls. They have many names. I call it a straddle split roll. We sit with the legs open and we hold our ankles. The body movement goes side, back, side. The object is to swing the body off to one side, open the legs through second, pull up, and sit. So the action is roll from side to side and sit back up. This is called a straddle split roll. Do 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. A variation on this same rolling movement is called a tailor roll. We sit with the legs crossed and you hold the toes from the outside. The action is exactly the same. You're going to roll first onto your side, you pull the body across the back onto the other side, and you sit up. I'll have Maureen do 3 of those now in a small circle. And 1, 2, and 3. That's called a tailor roll. Most young students work at one time or another on a movement called a front or back chest roll. Technically, the action is a forward or backward roll in a layout position. In other words, when we do a forward roll, we can do it in a tuck, we can do it in a pike position, but if you do it in a layout position, which means arching your back, it means to roll forward in an arch position on your chest. Most beginners begin this trick by kneeling down. A student must have strong arms. If she cannot push into a bridge, she should not be working on chest rolls. The basic action for beginning is to turn the open palms close to the head. You turn your face to one side. You arch your back. You roll from your thighs onto your chest into a back bend. Good. It's called a front chest roll. Now, if you want to assist students in this particular movement, the easiest way is to have the student kneel and begin the movement, and you kneel with them. Place one hand on the thigh, and as they roll over, the other hand's going to come in at the small of the back and help push and lift. The object is to keep the momentum forward so they don't rest on their neck. Amy is going to do the variation backwards, and this is called a back chest roll. Now basically, you need a back bend to do the trick. So until the student can do an actual back bend and stand up, they shouldn't be working on back chest rolls. We do a basic back bend to the floor. You bend the elbows, turning the face and pushing it towards your hips. You then push from both feet, and again, roll out from the chest onto the thighs. I'm now going to have Amy do the back chest roll on her own. Good. Once a student learns a handstand, we can combine handstand to forward rolls. One of the first movement we learn is handstand, front roll, and I'm going to have Maureen do this. You take a long step forward and bring your legs to the momentary handstand position. At this point, the elbows bend, the chin drops, and you lower yourself to your shoulders. At no point do you land on the top of your head or the back of the head. You must land on your shoulders. If it's done off of a mat on a floor in a performance of some kind, if you land on your head, it hurts. We'll have her do a handstand to a front roll. Good. A back roll to a knee scale. This is a way of getting the student supported on one leg. We start with the arms at 1 o'clock. The back roll can be done in the tuck position, the pike position, or the straddle. What happens is at the end of the movement, one leg will land on the knee with the toe pointed, with the other leg extended in an arabesque fashion. Do that for me, Maureen. That's back roll to a knee scale. Now, once the student is on the knee, they can do a variety of actions. From there, they can pivot on the knee and walk off of it. Or another variation, once a student has learned to do a back bend and they learn to do back walkovers, they can combine movements called Valdez back walkovers. This is a variation of a back roll to the Valdez preparation. This would be used for someone who is already capable of doing either a Valdez to a back bend or a Valdez to a back walkover. The back roll can be done again in the tuck position, the pike position, or the straddle. What happens at the end? We do the knee scale position. At this point, you rotate and sit and drop, and you're basically in the Valdez position, which is one knee bent, one arm extended over straight leg, and the strong arm back on the floor. Do that one more time. This is a back roll to a Valdez preparation. Good. This next section is splits and variations. The body does two splitting directions, front splits and what we call straddle splits. I'm going to have the girls each do a split for you. One will face front and one will face side. The things to remember: the forward leg is straight with the toe pointed. The back leg is straight with the toe pointed. The back leg is also turned in. In ballet, this is taught. This is really cheating because her hips are no longer square. The back knee and the instep should be rolled under so at the top of the instep rests on the floor. You try to square your hips as much as possible. Good. Come on up, girls. I'm going to have Amy face straight forward. This is a straddle split. The object of a straddle split is to keep the knees to the ceiling and the feet stretched. Good. There are many variations that you can do using splits. We're going to work, first of all, with a front roll to a front split. I'm going to have Maureen stand and raise her arm to 12 o'clock. This trick can take off from either a tuck position, a pike position, or the straddle position. The most important part of the movement, though, is as her back rolls onto the floor, she will open her legs to a straddle split. As she comes up, she will turn into the direction of her best split. Maureen is righty, so she will end up facing the camera. This is a forward roll to a front split. The next movement is a back roll to a front split. I'm going to have Amy demonstrate this for you. We begin with the arms at 12 o'clock. Again, the rolling movement can start from a tuck, a pike, or a straddle position. we're going to do it from a tuck. She's going to plie, do a back roll. As the shoulders hit the floor, the legs open to a straddle split. She rotates to the left, and that's her good side. Let's try that one more time. Back roll to a front split. Ta-da! Good. I'm going to have Amy do now a back roll to a straddle split. She has a very good straddle stretch. This is the same backward roll movement, but the position is going to finish facing that wall, and she'll end in a straddle split. There will be no quarter turn at the end. This is a back roll to a straddle split. Good. We have some things we can do on the floor with our legs in splits. One of the easiest things to teach a beginner is a movement called a chest revolving split. The student must have a good split to begin with. We're going to do a front split. The object is to make a full circle doing the movement 4 times. The torso falls halfway between the 2 legs onto the chest. You pick up your back leg and you rotate and push the leg open, so you've now made a quarter turn and you're now facing 1/4 of a way around. If you do 4 of these, they make a circle. She will now fall towards the camera and she'll end facing me. If she falls again, she will end facing the opposite wall, and the last one will put her back into the position where she started from. If she does the movement 4 times without stopping, it looks like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Hey. I'm going to have Maureen do a split for you. This movement is called a half revolve split. The back leg is going to swing forward, across, and you throw it to the back of the room, and it now puts you in your opposite side split. If she repeats it, her back leg now repeats the movement on the other side. She swings across as a half turn. So she's doing a split on both legs, both her right and her left. I'll have her do 2 without stopping. 1, 2. Good. I'm now going to have Maureen demonstrate for you a full revolving split. Now, she's a right-legged splitter, so she will begin and finish in the right side. The back leg swings across the front leg all the way to the back. You make a twist of the hips, and it puts you in the position where you started from. If you do the action without stopping, the hips stay close to the floor and the legs don't bend. A front revolving split full. Good. This next section is backbends. Before a student can actually do a backbend and stand up, there are some basic things you can teach them that help in the execution of the movement. I'm going to have Maureen come out and show you a knee backbend. This is an exercise, but it also helps to teach the student the idea of pushing the pelvis forward to help recovery from the backbend once you do it in a standing position. With the arms at 12 o'clock, we're going to arch back with the hips forward. You touch the fingertips to the floor and immediately push forward. This is what makes you come up from a backbend, the front of your pelvis. Do that one more time. Once the student can do that, you have them place both hands on the front of the thighs. The object is to arch back, this time letting the top of the head touch the floor, and then again pushing the pelvis forward for recovery. This is a knee back bend with no hands. Good. One more time. Good. Now I'm going to have Amy come in and show you a bridge. In teaching beginner students, I teach bridges by the numbers. We start on the floor in a elongated position with the arms next to the thighs. On count 1, you raise both arms to the ceiling. On count 2, you bend your arms and turn the 2 hands back so they're directly underneath the 2 shoulders. On 3, we bend the legs. The feet have to be flat but separated approximately 5 or 6 inches at the knees. We now push the pelvis up. That's 5. At this point, you try to keep your arms straight and releve off the toes. 6, you put your chin to your chest. 7, you return your shoulders down and you extend your arms and legs, and 8. If I count it out, it goes arms 1, bend 2, feet 3, bridge and push 4, hold 5, chin 6, drop to the shoulder 7, and elongate 8. Do it once by yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Bridges build strength, or we can stand up. Okay. Bridges build strength. The most important thing is that the students get their arms as straight as possible. Some variations that can be taught without doing a back bend can be done from the bridge position. A basic back bend. I'm going to have Maureen step out. To do a basic back bend, we start with the feet separated and the feet are parallel. There is no turnout. We raise both arms to 12 o'clock with the shoulders lifted and the head neutral between the arms. The teacher should step in with one foot between the student's two legs, placing both hands just on the upper part of the hips. That's so you can control how far forward you want to pull the student for the counterbalance action. The first thing I'm going to tell her to do is to arch back as far as possible with straight legs. Do that. At this point, you do a little plie and releve. This puts the hands underneath the shoulders. To recover from the back bend, we use a movement called rock and roll. Rock is in your shoulders, forward is in your hips. We do rock, roll. The rock action makes the shoulder girdle fall back, but it pushes the weight into the hips as you roll forward. The trick without me looks like this. Arch, plie, releve. You place the hands, there's a slight rock back. As you roll forward, the heels drop, and you finish at 12 o'clock. Some variations, whether a student can do a back bend and up or not, some of these variations can be done from the position called the bridge, which you saw Amy demonstrate before. The first one is a simple one called crab walks backwards. We're going to do it from a back bend position. Basically, we execute a back bend to the floor, and the direction is walking away backwards. Your feet walk back towards your hands. Now, for a beginner student who can't come up from a back bend, they could do half an inside out and stand up. Good. A crab walk forward. This is the only difference here is the movement is the same, except the direction of the body now, instead of walking feet backwards, we'll be walking feet forward. So we do a plain back bend, and staying on the balls of the feet, we walk forward. The hands now travel forward towards the feet. Good. Now, if you have a beginner student who can't recover, we do half an inside out. You can now do a forward roll and stand up. Good. Crab walks basically are done forward and backwards. But a crab really doesn't walk forward or backward. A crab walks sideways. This is the trick in reality, although very few of us use it in this method. We do a back bend, and we walk sideways. And again, if the student can't come up from the back bend, they can do half an inside out, stand up, or do a forward roll. Now, from a crab walk, we do a movement called crab jumping. This is done by doing either a bridge or a back bend, and we jump off our feet and hands, moving the body backwards. Hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet, and come up. Good. Maureen did crab jumps backwards. The movement can also be done forward. This is crab jumps traveling forward. The only difference is the direction of the body. You're now going to jump to the front. The hands work towards the feet. And recover. Good. A basic inside out is a rotating action traveling either to the right or left side. I'm going to have Amy do this for you. Now we're going to do it so you're going to see her face, all right, in the camera. We do a basic back bend, or it can be taught from a bridge position. You pick up one arm. The arm that comes up must reach for the ceiling. The body makes a half turn, and the feet step open to second position. You then cross this leg, and with the arm to the ear, rotate. So we have one arm up, step over. If we do the other side, we can reverse it. This is the basic inside out and finish. Good. And up. Hey. Okay. There's a variation we can do on an inside out called an inside out and jump through. If I'm going to teach this to somebody, I usually teach it in this method. I tell them to stand on the edge of the mat with their feet separated and jump a half turn to the right and finish on the opposite edge of the mat. Do that. Basically, that's what the trick is. It's a half turn jumping from facing front to facing back. So you can see the jump action. We're going to do it in a view that's really not very usable. Very rarely do you work with the torso facing the camera. But we do a back bend. You take one hand up, the right or the left, and put it over by your opposite foot so you're in a squat position. You jump both feet like you just did, reach over your head, and you have the action now in the opposite direction. And you repeat it. Hand over, jump through, back bend, hand over, jump through, back bend, and come up. Right. That's called inside out and jump through. Another variation that can be taught to a beginner student combines the use of inside outs and a tripod position, which is the basic action of balancing on your head. I'm going to have Amy do this for you. You place your hands and head on the floor, so you make a tripod. The object is not to move the head or the hands, but to take your legs and take small steps around, step over one leg into a back bend. You continue the steps around, and then the leg will step over again, and it'll put you back where you came from. It's called a head spider. We're going to do one more time. Take small steps around, one step over. You walk until you can see the first foot again. Take one step over, and finish. Good. It's called a head spider. Once a student has a good bridge with strong arms, you can give variations using the legs. The next movement is called bent knee pony kick stationary. Now, before the student even does the trick, I usually have them work on lift your arms to 12 o'clock and put one foot at your knee in a passe. I then tell them to leap from one foot to the other 8 times. Do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like jogging. Now, either from a bridge position or a back bend, we do the same movement in the back bend position. We're going to do it from a standing back bend. So she's going to do a back bend, place one foot at the knee. You then leap from one foot to the other and do 8 bent knee pony kicks stationary. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put the foot down, and we stand up. Those are bent knee stationary pony kicks. If you sit on the floor and extend one leg forward, we'll do it in profile, with the good leg pointing forward. Now that's the leg that you kick or split best. And the other leg bent and pulled close to your hip socket, with one arm extended forward and the palm facing slightly up and the other hand back. This is the preparation known as a Valdez. This is the preparation. The trick itself was named after a gymnast who used the movement to get to a handstand position. As girls started to adapt the position, they realized it was very difficult to attain the handstand, so they usually continue over into a back walkover or a tinsicker. I teach it to beginner students to get them into a back bend. From this position, this arm's going to swing up, and you push your hips up, pulling this leg in, and do a back bend. And from there, we can, if your student is not capable, can do half an inside out and a forward roll to stand up. Balances. The most important balance the acrobatic or tumbling student can work on is the handstand. Almost every action that we do, whether forward, backward, or sideways, passes through a basic vertical line, which is called the handstand. I'm going to have Maureen demonstrate as I talk her through it. We begin at 12 o'clock with one foot pointed. As I said before, long lines make movements easy. She steps into a long lunge, reaching far forward. As her back leg comes up, her legs join, and they come to the point of not 12 o'clock, which is straight up, but 1 o'clock, which is slightly off balance. The shoulders are lifted, and the head is held neutral between the arms. If she steps down, one leg comes down, and she comes back up to finish. The basic handstand is controlled by pressing the fingertips into the floor, keeping the shoulders fully extended and tightening abdominal muscles. Those 3 actions hit at the same time, which makes the legs join and stop in that movement. I'm going to have Maureen kick to the handstand and balance. Good. Headstands. Most beginners work on balancing on their head. A headstand is a balancing movement done with 3 points of balance, the 2 hands and the top of your head. I'm going to have Amy work on this with us. We begin with the arms at 12 o'clock. With the feet slightly turned out. The first movement we're going to do is called tuck to the headstand. Now that's the position where you make a ball. The first action is to plie and put the hands on the floor with the 2 knees just on the outside of your elbows. You drop your head forward so the top of the head is on the floor, and you bring your feet off and join your toes. The knees close, and without moving your hips, you unfold the 2 legs straight up to the headstand position. Now, you'll notice her legs are slightly piked back. They do not come fully over her head. If she does this, she will fall forward. The hips are slightly piked, and she holds her counterbalance. To reverse that, you bend the knees, put them back on the elbows, put the feet back on the floor. You come up to the position of 12 o'clock. I'm going to have her do that in consecutive movement so she doesn't stop. Headstand from a tuck position. And recover. Good. A headstand from a pike position. The only difference here is there is no plie in the legs. We begin at 12 o'clock. We put our hands on the floor. We lean forward. Keeping the legs straight, we lift the legs or lever them up to the position of balance. Again, they're slightly at an 11 o'clock position with the feet. To come down, the legs pike. We push off straight arms. And we stand with the arms at 12 o'clock. I'm going to have her do that on her own. Headstand from a pike position. Good. The next movement is a headstand from a kick-up position. It's approached as if we were going to do a handstand. We begin with the arm at 12 o'clock, 1 foot pointing forward. We do a very long step to a lunge and place the hands down. You lean forward to place the head as the legs come together and they join. You catch your counterbalance and hold it. To step out of it, 1 leg comes down, you push off and stretch back up to the position that you started from. Let's try that once again. We're going to step out, the elbows bend, you place your head, bring the legs together, balance. We come back down and push off. Good. The last basic balance in this particular series is an elbow stand. In actuality, it should be called a forearm stand because you balance on the forearms. You really don't balance on the ends of your elbows. That's possible, but at this point, we're not working on advanced movements. Usually we begin beginners in a kneeling position on the floor. I tell them to extend 1 leg backwards and place the 2 forearms on the floor with the fingers opened and spread. The head has to be held up. This is one of the few movements in acrobatics where the head does not stay neutral between the arms. The higher you lift your head, the easier it is to counterbalance. You kick 1 leg up, followed by the other, and catch your balance. To come down, 1 leg opens, and I'm going to have Maureen do that by herself. The balancing portion is easy. Getting up is the hard part. Good. That's an elbow stand. This next section deals with front and back limbers. A limber is basically a handstand and a back bend combined together either in a forward or a backward movement. We're going to do a basic front limber first. I'm going to have Amy do the first one for you. We begin with the arms at 12 o'clock with the foot pointed forward. We take a long step out to a handstand and stop momentarily. At this point, you arch your back, bend the knees, land on the floor, and roll up off your hands and stand. I'm going to have her do that alone. I want you to pay particular attention to the arch in her back. I'm going to have Maureen do a front limber. Maureen is not as pliable in the back as Amy is. Maureen uses more shoulder hyperextension. That is, once she hits the handstand, as she descends over towards the floor, you'll see her shoulders isolate backwards. You kick to the handstand the same way. Watch her shoulders. Good. That's a basic front limber. To do the movement backwards, we reverse the action. I'm going to have Amy do this first. Now, to do a back limber, the student must be capable of a back walkover. So you would not teach this trick until you can do a back walkover. The movement is to kick up into a handstand, join your legs, and then land on 2 feet. At this point, the recovery is down and finish. It's the reverse of what is front. Take off from 1 foot to 2 foot. Let's say back limber. Okay. We have some variations we can do on limbers. The first one is called an Arabian. An Arabian limber is any movement that takes off from 2 feet. The first one is called a half-tuck front Arabian limber. I'm going to have Maureen do this for you. We begin at 12 o'clock. There's a little plie. You put your hands on the floor, pushing from both feet, unfold your legs to a handstand, and do the front limber. Once more. This is half-tuck Arabian front limber. Good. I'm going to have Amy do the next one. This is a straddle pike Arabian limber. You begin at 12 o'clock. We place the hands on the floor. As her feet leave the floor, she will immediately do a straddle split, but she must close them in the handstand before she finishes. Straddle pike Arabian. Let's try that one more time. Straddle pike Arabian. Good. Whoops. I'm going to have Maureen now do a half pike Arabian. This has to do with the takeoff position at the beginning. As she takes off, she will straighten both legs exactly as if she was going to do a pike forward roll. She lifts her legs to the handstands and then arches over to complete the movement. Good. This portion deals with back walkovers. A student can't do a back walkover until they're capable of a back bend enough. I'm going to begin with Amy first and show you 2 ways to teach a back walkover. The first one is the back walkover from a tendu or pointed foot position. With the arms at 12 o'clock, you're going to do a back bend, and just before the hands touch the floor, this leg will battement into the air. She will then push from the standing leg and push herself over into a back bend in reverse. Arch, plie, kick, and push. The arms finish up at 12 o'clock, and let's try that on her own. Good. A back bend from an extension. Once a student can do the back bend from the tendu position, we do it from a lifted leg position. I'm going to have Maureen do this. We start at 12 o'clock, and we can do passe and développé. The leg extends open, and we push. Good. Let's try that once more. We do passe, développé, and push. Good. We have a walkover, and a variation of that is called a scissor. That means to change the legs in the air. If you're teaching a scissor walkover, the most important thing to remember is the student will start on the good side but finish on the bad side until they're capable of doing the back walkover on both sides. I'm going to have Amy do this. Now, Amy's the lefty, so what happens is she will switch legs in the air and land. It's a back bend. You kick, you split the legs, land, and stand. I'm going to have her do that on her own. Back scissor walkover. Good. Another variation on a back walkover is called an open stag back walkover. We begin at 12 o'clock with the foot pointed forward. In the middle of the back walkover, Amy's going to pull this foot into a passe. She will then reopen the legs to a full split before she lands on the floor. I'm going to have her do that on her own. Open stag back walkover. Good. We now have a position called closed stag back walkover. Once a student can do the open stag, they can work on this particular one. I'm going to have Maureen do this. This movement is very usable if you want to go from a standing position to the floor. It's called a closed stag, but the secret is you must land on the top of your instep in either a knee scale or a half a split. We start at 12 o'clock, we point 1 foot forward. Again, as the top of the movement is hit, you pull the leg to passe, and it remains in that position until the top of this instep touches the floor. You can finish in a half split or extend it into a knee scale, which looks like arabesque. I'm going to have her do that for yourself. This is called a back walkover with a closed stag. Good. Front walkovers. The basic front walkover begins with 1 foot pointed forward, the arm lifted to 12 o'clock. We take a long step forward. As we do that, the back leg comes over the head in an open split position. You bend your back, you bend your first leg, and you roll up onto the ball of the foot to push off both hands. Front walkover. A variation on the front walkover is a scissor. For beginners, it's better to start on the bad side and change legs so they land on their good side. We do a scissor by splitting the legs in the air, making one change of legs. We're going to have Amy do that on her own. Scissor walkover. Yeah. Another variation is called an open stag walkover. This is similar to the one that we did backwards. The difference here now is the movement goes forward. As the legs come into the split position, one leg is brought to passe, reopen to the split, and she stands up. Open stag walkover. Once more. Good. We can also do a closed stag where the foot remains in the passe position so the recovery finishes on a one-legged balance. You split, hit the knee, stay there, and pull up. That's a hard movement to do because it is controlling balance on one foot. One more time. Closed stag walkover. Good. We have another variation that a beginner can do once they can do a front walkover, and this is called an entrechat walkover. What happens is the legs come together as you kick to the handstand, so you have right leg over left. We do a basic entrechat. You re-split your legs and stand up. I'm going to have Maureen do this for you. And beat, split, stand up. If you'll turn around and do one for us. Entrechat, front walkover. Good. This is tinsikas. A tinsika is an Arabic word which means lopsided walking step. It's basically one half of a cartwheel into a front walkover, or one half of a back walkover into a half a cartwheel. The basic front tinsika is executed by starting in the position with 1 foot forward. Instead of having the arms at 12 o'clock, one arm is at 12, and one arm is extended in front. The hand that is lifted over the head is the support or pushing arm. This finger turns inward into the direction of the leg that you're pointing to. The object is to put the hands on the floor, one in front of the other, like a cartwheel, but keeping the hips in a square position to finish the movement as a walkover. Now, if you're spotting a student who is on the left side, like Amy, you have to stand on her right. So we can better do this. I'm going to have her change sides. We do the tendu. She's going to step out, place one hand in front of the other, and she pushes off one hand before the other to recover. Hand, hand, foot, foot. Once more. A front tinsika. Hand, hand, front, front. Do it alone. Good. A back tinsika is the reverse of front. One arm is raised. Again, the other arm is forward in line with the shoulder, and it's the same arm as the foot. The object is to reach back with the first arm and farther back with the second arm. The movement again is hand, hand, foot, foot. It's a back walkover into half a cartwheel. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, I'm going to have Maureen do that on her own. A back tinsika. Good. We do a little variation on a front tin-sicker called tin-sicker twist, which is in reality a front tin-sicker, and possibly we could call it half an inside out. The movement is really very simple. We do one front tin-sicker, but as the foot lands on the floor, we do a half turn, bringing our legs together to face the opposite direction. From that point, all you do is kick backwards, place your hands in the tin-sicker position, and repeat the trick. We do one tin-sicker forward, step together twist, kick the leg, step together twist, and one more time. Good. That's called tin-sicker twist. Tin-sickers were originally done in a large circle. They were a lopsided trick, which meant you fall off to one side. Basically, in the circus, if you watch tin-sickers, most acrobats do them in a circle and not in a straight line. Gymnastics made us do tin-sickers in a straight line so they could be used on the balance beam. I'm going to have the girls show you a tin-sicker in a circle. We'll do only 3, though. Maureen? Tin-sickers in a circle. You must lean in and make the edge of a circle your perimeter.